Good morning, you're watching World News and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. At least one person was killed and two more were injured in Russia's overnight airstrikes on Kyiv. The drone and missile attack also caused several fires to break out in the Ukrainian capital, including in a subway station converted into an air raid shelter. As stated by Kyiv's mayor Vitaly Klitschko, Russian missiles and drones targeted multiple districts of the city. Several outdoor kiosks, residential buildings and a daycare caught fire during the attack. Smoke also engulfed the Lukyanivska subway station, which local authorities had turned into an air raid shelter. Throughout the night, all of Ukraine was under threat from Russian missiles and drones, despite President Volodymyr Zelensky's invitation to hold peace talks with Moscow in Turkey next week. The Russian attack also prompted the Polish Air Force to scramble fighter jets and monitor Polish airspace. Ukraine is proposing a new round of negotiations with Russia. The Kremlin spokesperson has responded by saying, "We want peace with Ukraine, but Moscow wants to achieve its own goals first." Those goals have historically included changing the government in Kyiv and taking de facto control of Ukraine. So for now, talks are ongoing and the attacks continue.
These flames from the Ukrainian region of Sumy and this rubble in the Donbass, all signs of a deadly and painful war with no end in sight.
The neighbors screamed, but not for long. They got him out dead, and the blast wave damaged our house, the roof, windows, inside, the bathtub, completely destroyed.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky now reigniting his pitch for peace.
The negotiating dynamics must be increased. We must do everything to achieve a ceasefire, and the Russian side should stop hiding from decisions.
President Zelensky is also emphasizing his desire to sit down face-to-face with Vladimir Putin, while noting that head of the country's Security Council, Rustem Umerov, has offered Russia a meeting in the coming days. The Kremlin's response, telling a familiar story.
Russia is prepared to move swiftly. For us, the main thing is to achieve our objectives. They are clear, obvious, and unchanging.
Kyiv and Moscow's ceasefire efforts have previously fallen flat, including 2 rounds of talks in Istanbul earlier this year, with Zelensky travelling to Turkey and Putin failing to return the favour. But as Donald Trump promises to send American weapons to Ukraine through a deal with NATO and threatens severe sanctions if Russia does not come to the table by early September, the tide may be turning.
We believe that next weeks will be more fruitful about our collaboration with DC, with President Trump, and about finding different solutions.
On top of that, the EU has agreed on an 18th package of sanctions against Russia, finally convincing Slovakia to withdraw its veto. From dropping the price cap on Russian crude oil to blacklisting vessels of the so-called shadow fleet, there's hope it will hamper the Kremlin's economy.
It closes a very particular loophole, which is for 3.5 years now, EU member states have been able to import refined oil products like diesel from places like India, which is made from Russian oil. That is an embarrassment.
When it comes to unity, Europe may still face a turbulent road ahead. Andrej Babiš, the Czech billionaire whose Eurosceptic party is leading the polls ahead of October's parliamentary election, now vowing to scrap Prague's 5% defence promise if elected.
If I were at a NATO summit and we were discussing the 5% defense spending target, I would simply say that we need social peace here. And if Trump tells me to jump out of the window, I will not jump.
That would follow the lead of Spain, which says it was granted an exemption from the NATO pledge agreed to at The Hague last month. Back in Kyiv, reports are emerging of Russia potentially launching up to 2,000 drones at once to overwhelm Ukraine's air defences. And while the war-torn country is fighting back, with these pictures appearing to show a drone strike in Moscow, Zelensky's pitch for peace may continue to land on deaf ears. Aaron Darman, TVP World.
Ukraine's ceasefire negotiation proposal is meant to show that Kyiv does not object diplomatic and political solutions to ending the war, said Yulia Osmolovska, director of Globsec's Kyiv office, in an exclusive interview with TVP World. Osmolovska also underlined the discrepancy in expectations for what Moscow and Kyiv are seeking to achieve during the talks.
The purpose of Kyiv suggesting another round of negotiations is actually to prove that Ukraine is not objecting seeking the political and diplomatic solutions to the ongoing war, and is ready to consider and to meet the Russian side. Even more, our president indicated he is ready to meet with the president of Russia, despite the previous very strong position that we won't be talking with Putin at all. It is also a sort of indication for the American side to see them that Ukrainians are pretty much determined to follow on this way and to consider a ceasefire the first step based on the proposal suggested by the American side. There are more pessimistic expectations because we know that the both sides are looking differently at what should be discussed first, and obviously Ukrainian side is seeking and consider humanitarian issues first, like unconditional release of all prisoners of war, captured civilians, deported children, and then ceasefire, and then to go ahead to more comprehensive peace settlement, whereas Russians try to present it as a full package with all the issues at stake. Even some of them are completely detached from the reality.
Polish Interior Minister Tomasz Siemoniak will meet with his German counterpart Alexander Dobrindt at the Poland-Belarus border on Monday. The two leaders are expected to discuss the migration crisis as well as border checks introduced by Poland at its borders with Lithuania and Germany. A joint press conference of the two ministers will be held around 1 p.m. at the Połowice-Pieszczadka border crossing. The topic of the migration crisis was already touched on by the pair last Friday when they met in Germany's Bavaria region. At the same time, the German minister praised Poland for introducing border controls and effective enforcement measures. Poland introduced temporary border controls at 65 border crossings with Germany and Lithuania on July 7th. Over 227,000 people and 106,000 vehicles have been checked to date. U.S. President Donald Trump may meet Chinese leader Xi Jinping to negotiate a tariff agreement, though a date or location is yet to be confirmed. A potential meeting could occur on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea, or Trump might visit China beforehand, according to multiple sources. The U.S. president aims to impose tariffs on nearly all foreign imports to boost domestic manufacturing, though critics argue that will raise prices for American consumers. He has set an August 12 deadline for the U.S. and China to reach a lasting tariff agreement. Currently, imports from China face the highest tariff rate of 55%. A suspected case of cholera has been detected in a patient in Poland's western Pomerania region. This is the first such case detected in the country in 6 years. As of now, doctors have confirmed the presence of the bacteria in the patient, but the source of the toxin is still under investigation. So where does the disease come from and what threats does it pose?
On Sunday, a suspected case of cholera disease was identified in Poland. Two separate laboratories confirmed that the patient, an elderly woman in Poland's northwestern city of Stargard, received a positive result for Vibrio cholerae, a bacterium responsible for the disease.
We have received yesterday information from the primary hospital that they have hospitalized patient with symptoms of acute and severe diarrhea, and there is a positive DNA test for Vibrio cholerae, which is bacterium responsible for cholera disease. After confirmation of this test by another laboratory, we announced that we have strong suspicion of cholera case in Poland.
The patient was transferred to a specialized infectious diseases hospital in the nearby city of Szczecin due to the disease's high contagiousness.
Cholera's genetic material was detected in the patient. What does that mean? It means that we have only detected the bacteria. We have not detected the toxin. Tests to detect the toxin are ongoing, and therefore this is a person with suspected cholera. But only once a toxin is detected can we diagnose this infection. We must treat this case with full caution and fully implement the appropriate procedures.
As a result of the detection, preventative measures were implemented.
Now we are dealing with investigation, epidemiological investigation, so we try to find source of this bacterium. We perform quarantine, which consists of 26 persons which are under quarantine, and other 86 persons are under sanitary control.
Cholera cases have been found in Poland, but they usually affect people who have recently traveled. The last confirmed case was in 2019, when an Indian sailor whose ship concluded its intercontinental cruise in another northwestern Polish city, Świnoujście, was diagnosed. The highly contagious disease spreads epidemically through water contaminated by patients and carriers. It is most often found in conflict-affected countries, though the UN has previously warned that climate change and rising inequality could lead to the spread of the disease.
From climate chaos to rising poverty and inequalities and multiplying conflicts. And when crises rage, health suffers. We see it across the globe, more than 20 million children missing routine vaccinations. Rising cases of dengue and other diseases linked with rising global temperatures. Cholera outbreaks in more than 20 countries this year alone, and a mountain of evidence that health is a casualty of war.
The main symptoms of the disease include acute watery diarrhea and vomiting, which leads to dehydration. Without appropriate treatment, it can lead to death within just a few hours. Cholera is treated with antibiotics and intensive intravenous and rehydration treatments. The source of the cholera case in Poland is not currently known, as neither the patient nor her relatives have recently traveled. For TVP World, Zuzanna Jurek.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan urged the international community to recognize the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus and establish diplomatic, political, and economic ties with it. Currently, only Ankara recognizes the state.
We are in full harmony with President Tatar and the government of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus in building a political and economic future for the country.
Sahadaki gerçeklerle barışma vakti
It is time for the international community to make peace with the realities on the ground. Diplomatic, political, and economic relations must be established with the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. The injustice that has been deemed appropriate for Turkish Cypriots for decades must finally come to an end. We wholeheartedly believe that this will eventually be realized.
Celebrating the anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing, Pope Leo XIV visited the Vatican Observatory in Castel Gandolfo on Sunday. The Specola Vaticana is one of the oldest active astronomical observatories in the world, dating back to the 16th century. The Pope's visit to the observatory wasn't just a formal gesture. It sent a clear message that the Church doesn't fear science, but embraces it. During his visit, Pope Leo was accompanied by astronomers and students participating in a summer school organized by the institution. The observatory in Castel Gandolfo was originally established to develop the reformed Georgian calendar. It consists of two domes, which house the Schmidt and Quart du Ciel telescopes, the latter of which was recently restored and is currently in operation. Today, the Vatican Observatory, managed by the Society of Jesus, is a member of the International Astronomical Union and the International Center for Relativistic Astrophysics. And so this would be all the latest news for now. Thank you very much for joining. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska, and I hope to see you back here on TVP World back in just a moment with more news and features.